Good afternoon, everyone. Our first speaker for the afternoon is Sam Agnew, and the title of his talk is Hacking Classic Nintendo Games with Python. So please give a warm welcome to Mr. Sam Agnew.
How's it going, PyCon? I'm Sam Agnew. I'm a developer evangelist at Twilio, and I flew here from New York. So who here likes old video games? Cool, that's a good thing. I think you're all in the right place. So when I was a kid, I used to play my Super Nintendo like every day. And one day, my dad trash-picked a Nintendo Entertainment System, so I fell in love with that one too. And I've kind of always had like an affinity for classic games. Like even when newer systems come out, like I'll still play those, but like I still have my Super Nintendo hooked up in my apartment in New York, so still all about those. So naturally, when I started learning how to code and started hacking on like side projects in my spare time for fun, I kind of gravitated towards that kind of stuff. And I always thought it'd be cool to like hook up classic games to the internet, and like, cause the internet's a magical place, and there's like an API for everything, right? So I always thought it'd be cool if like, what if you're playing Metroid and Samus could order a pizza for you, or you're playing Mega Man and you could have it text your ex-girlfriend whenever you like lose a life or something like that, right? The possibilities are endless, right? So I decided for this talk, it's gonna be a fun one. We're gonna have some fun, and I'm gonna like show you firsthand how to hook up some old Nintendo games to the internet. So you might see on my screen here, I have the FCEUX Nintendo emulator running. And I have the Windows version of this emulator running, which is kind of interesting. So believe it or not, there's actually like a thriving community of Nintendo Entertainment System developers, like people who just like make old games for fun. Like people are still writing 6502 assembly, believe it or not. And most of these developers, I think they use Windows machines. So like a lot of these like community like tools or whatever are for Windows machines. So I'm running the Windows version of this on my Mac using Wine, because this comes with some pretty cool developer tools. Like one example of this is let me click this debug menu. It's kind of small. I'm gonna click this over here, and I'm gonna open this thing called a Hex Editor. So has anyone heard of a Hex Editor before? Cool. So like some people here are familiar with such things. If you're not, that's cool. It's not super complicated. So this like collection of hexadecimal values over here is this is basically the memory of the game in real time. Like this is just like what's happening in the game. So if I actually start a game, let me zoom out. You probably can't see like any of the numbers. I can't either, so it's not that big of a deal. I'm gonna pause that. But like all these numbers will start changing and stuff as things happen in the game, and it's just this is what's happening in the game. This is like the memory. Like on the side here, you have some hexadecimal like addresses that correspond to address in the game's memory, and over here you have the values, right? And a lot of times like hackers will use this tool to try to figure out to kind of take the game apart and reverse engineer it. And it's kind of fun. Like you could always like try searching through this and like finding what address corresponds to certain things in the game. Like for instance, if I wanted to just like edit a couple of numbers to kill Mario, I could search through this hex table for like the time up here. I guess like right, I have it paused, so it's 395. That's like how many seconds or whatever unit of time this game uses that I have left. So if I open up this edit thing and I click find. I can assume that like, and I was testing this out earlier, you can assume that like the 3, the 9, and the 5 are like stored sequentially in memory somewhere. So if I just search for like the hexadecimal values like 03, 09, 05, I should find something cool. Like it found something. And over here, like if I unpause the game, you should see these like values are changing. I think because I zoomed out, I lost it, so I'm gonna find that again real quick. But if like, oh no, the thing changed. I should pause the game again. What am I doing? Oh yeah, I have to like get that out. All right, so 375, right? So if I change these to 7 now, right? So if I change those to zeros, hypothetically, Mario should die, right? So I'm gonna just change those. Cool. So like I just killed Mario from a editing some numbers on a screen. That's my whole talk. See ya. No, just kidding. So anyway, like, you know, you can mess around with this stuff, and like a lot of people will like map out the RAM of a game by just like, if you Google any like arbitrary Nintendo game, like if you Google like Final Fantasy RAM map, you might find like a table with like, oh, this is the hit points of your character, and this address is whatever. But what else is cool about the Windows version of some of these emulators is that you can extend them by writing Lua scripts. Like, they give you this like environment so that you can write a Lua script that runs in the emulator and can manipulate the game. You can simulate button presses. You can edit the memory in real time. These are, I think, most commonly used in like the tool-assisted speedrunning community. So people will like write scripts that will like play games in the most optimal way, and like they'll have it press certain buttons at certain frames or whatever. But it's kind of cool. You can have it edit memory too. So let me do like some hello world kind of stuff. Let's see. I'm gonna write a file called killmario.lua. So what I'm gonna do is first I'm gonna full screen this. Make sure my screen is like big enough. I'm gonna start off with like a quick hello world. I'm gonna like call this emulator object, and I'm gonna write a message to the screen, and it's gonna be like, it's gonna say hello PyCon smiley face, and then I'm gonna kill Mario. So this is just gonna be like a Lua script that just prints hello PyCon and kills Mario. So I can call like the memory.writeByte function, and I give it a hexadecimal address and value. And if I like look in this hex editor and I zoom in more, it'll have like, so the address is 07F something. Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The 07F8 is where the 3 is, so that's like F8, F9, FA. So if I just write to that byte, 07F8, and if I write that byte as 0, it'll change that to a 0. So let me do that with all 3 of those consecutive values. 9, and A is 10 in hexadecimal. So now if I go over to this emulator, I think I'm done with the hex editor now. I can run a Lua script. New Lua script window, cool. Looks like I was already running something from earlier. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna run my killmario.lua, and hopefully Mario will die if I did it right. Cool. So it printed hello PyCon on the screen. And we just wrote some code to make you lose in Mario. Super useful. As if I needed help. So that's cool. So you see, like, you have a basic idea of like, you can write some code that runs in the environment of the game. That's rad, but what can you do with this? I think it'd be cool to like hook these games up to the internet, right? So what I'm gonna do is, you might be thinking like, wow, editing the game's memory as the game is playing. That kind of sounds familiar for probably some of you who like had a specific product that let you do this when you were a kid. There's this thing called the Game Genie. Who here had a Game Genie? You cheaters. Well, anyway, you could use a Game Genie and put in codes, and those codes would like correspond to like memory values and addresses, and it would like change it so you could have infinite lives or whatever. And I think it'd be cool if I can make a Game Genie that all of us can use while I play games on my computer at PyCon. So I'm gonna be using the Twilio API to build like a text message powered Game Genie type thing where you can text a Twilio number that I'm programmatically controlling. And I'm going to build that with Flask. I bet you were wondering where the Python's coming in here because I've been writing Lua. So what I'm going to do is I need to write a Lua script that can communicate with my Python Flask app sitting behind a phone number. And I'm going to use an extremely advanced, sophisticated algorithm. What I'm going to do is to communicate between these two programs, I'm going to write from a text file in my Python program and read from that text file in my Lua program. You know, not gonna write like a socket server or anything like that. Just gonna keep it simple. So I'm gonna make a Lua file called nesms.lua because like NES, SMS, I like puns. And I'm gonna start off by writing a function that just lets me read from a text file, given like a file name or whatever. And this is gonna be like a basic file reading function. I'm gonna like create a variable for that input, and that's just gonna open that file with the read flag, and then I'm going to check to see if that input is nil, because if it is nil, then that file just probably doesn't exist. If it's not nil, though, I can do stuff with it. So I'm going to set the input to be this, this file, and then I'm going to store the contents of that file in this variable, just like read it as a string. And then I'm going to close that file, because you always got to close your files. And now at this point, I have a string variable called content that just has the contents of that file. I'm going to return that. And outside here, I'm going to just return nil, like if the file doesn't exist. So now I can read from files. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a loop that will run on every frame of the game. So I'm going to write an infinite loop here. So while true, do. And this is like my game loop. A lot of times, like video games work on like an infinite loop where it'll like play each frame of the game, and some code will execute while that's happening. And what I'm going to do here is at the end of each iteration of this loop, I'm going to call my frame advance function, which will advance to the next frame. And what this effectively lets me do is take programmatic control of like the game itself, because this code is synchronous. It's not non-blocking. So if I don't put that frame advance function at the end of each loop, it'll just be an infinite loop running, and the game will be stuck on one frame forever, and that will not be as fun. So at the beginning of each loop, I'm just going to read from that text file. So I'm going to store the what we're going to do is you're going to text my phone number, like a 4-digit hexadecimal address, like corresponding to address in memory, a space, and then a 2-digit hexadecimal value. And I'm going to write that value to that address in memory. And I'm going to just read them from some text files, because, you know, it's an easy way to communicate. So I'm going to read from address.text, and I'm going to do the same thing for value.text. And what I'm going to do is on each frame of the game, I'm going to compare it to like the previous value that I had for that. So like, because like if you text me, if like one person in this audience, like let's say none of you want to help me out and hack this game with me, if only one person texts like one time, I don't want it to just continuously write that on every frame. So I'm going to like have some variables out here to keep track of those as I go along. And I'm going to compare them to that. So if they change, then I'm actually going to do stuff. So I'm going to compare these to each previous value of those. So if either one of these changes, then I will do stuff with it. Cool. All right. So then now if something changed, I know like, all right, I need to do something. So now I'm going to convert them into hexadecimal values. So I'm going to create like a hex address thing. I'm going to call this a toNumber function, and I'm just going to give it the string version of that address variable that is just read from the text file. And I'm going to say like read that as a base 16 integer. I'm going to do the same thing for the value, if I can spell value right. I'll take that J out of there. Cool. I'm going to do the same thing here. All right, and then I'm going to see if these are actual valid hexadecimal numbers, because you might just send me, I don't know, non-hexadecimal numbers, and that wouldn't be cool. But you know, someone might accidentally autocorrect stuff. So let me see if any of these are equal to nil, then that means they're not real hexadecimal numbers. Yeah, so if they're both not equal to nil, I'm going to do that. Then I know I'm good to just write some memory right here. I'm going to call my memory.writeByte function. This is the meat. This one line of code. This is where the real action is happening. This is like the fun stuff. Memory.writeByte. So I'm going to write the hex address. I'm going to write that hex value to that hex address, and I'm going to like print out something. I'm going to print something out on the screen just so I know like what's going on. I'm going to print what address is being written to and what value it is. String concatenation in Lua is done with 2 dots instead of a plus. So that's what's going on there. And then at the end of each iteration of this loop, I'm going to update my previous address and previous value variables to like be current. And that should be all the Lua that I have to write. Hopefully I didn't mess anything up. So I'm going to like open up this. I'm going to open this up and run that script and see if it totally breaks. Cool. So far, nothing broke. So now I'm gonna open like address.txt. I was like messing around with it earlier. I have like a couple of memory addresses like already memorized in Super Mario Bros. Because I guess I'm kind of a nerd and I just know some memory addresses. So 0779 corresponds to like the color palette of the game. So I'm gonna write to that, and the value I'm gonna write to that is gonna be 1F. So if I write 1F to that memory address, then the color palette should change to be like black and white. So let me write to that. Cool. All right, so my code works. So whenever those files change, whenever someone like writes to that file, it'll reflect that change in the game. So, okay, I can change it back. Cool, so now I'm ready to like actually start writing some Python. We're at PyCon after all. So, get doing that. I'm gonna get out of all here. So I'm gonna create an app.py file. And this is gonna be just a basic Flask app. What I'm gonna do here is I already have a Twilio phone number like purchased and configured to send post requests to a Flask app running on my local machine whenever it receives a text message. But that app doesn't exist yet, so I'm gonna build that now. I'm gonna start off by importing the stuff I need. I'm gonna import the regular expression library because I'm gonna use a regular expression to make sure you're sending me hexadecimal numbers. And then I'm gonna import the stuff from Flask. I'm gonna import the Flask object and the request object and the Twilio Python library. Because whenever Twilio sends a text message to this app, I need to respond with TWIML, which is Twilio's set of XML tags that tells them what to do with the text message. And this'll generate the XML for me because no one wants to write XML by hand. And next I'm gonna instantiate a Flask app object. And now I can create routes on this app. So this route is gonna be just /SMS, and it's gonna take post requests. And whenever a post request is sent to /SMS, this SMS function will be called. And this is where I'm gonna like do all the stuff and write to files to communicate with this Lua script running in the emulator. So first I'm gonna grab the message body from like the text message. So this will be in the form encoded data of the post request, and the variable name is just body with a capital B. And that is the actual text that you sent me, my phone number. So I'm gonna grab that. I'm also gonna create a variable for like the text message I'm gonna respond to you with. So I'm gonna say, thanks for playing. Put a smiley face in there. And I will say, hit up Agnew Shreds on Twitter. This is my Twitter handle. It's Agnew Shreds, because my name is Sam Agnew, so it's S Agnew and then Shreds like on a guitar. I don't want my line to be too long, so I'm going to make this one of those multi-line strings. So hit up Agnew Shreds on Twitter for questions. Cool. Put an exclamation point because I'm super excited. Next, I'm going to create a variable for the error message. Like, so if you send me like invalid input, I'm going to respond with something that's not thanks for playing. I'm going to respond with something that's like, hey, you should enter something different. So I'll say, please enter I'll say a 4-digit hex address followed by I'm going to go to that next line, followed by a 2-digit hex value to write to that address. Super descriptive string. And then I'm going to put some \ns in there, and I'm going to give you an example. So the one I used was 07791F, and that'll change Mario's background to black and white. Cool. So now I'm going to split this body, the message body, by spaces. So I'm going to be able to get like the address and the value from your text message. And I'm also going to create a hex pattern that I'm going to be able to use to match against those to make sure that those are hexadecimal numbers. So I'm going to compile one of those. So let's see here. First I want to have a caret to match the beginning of the string. Then I want any character from 0 through 9 or A through F or capital A through capital F, so we can make this case insensitive. And then I want a plus sign because I want one or more of those, and then a $sign because that matches the end of the string. Hopefully Hopefully this is not a terrible regular expression. So now I have the stuff. I'm going to see if the message list is actually, like, if the length is equal to 2 to make sure you didn't send me, like, anything with more than 1 space in it. And if it isn't, then I'm going to send you my error message. But, like, be optimistic. I'm going to, first things first, I'm going to deal with the optimistic case and see if you do send me, like, correct input. Then I'm going to unpack this list into address and value variables. And I'm going to check to see if those are valid hexadecimal numbers. So, oh, I accidentally undid that. Cool. So now I'm going to call my hex pattern. I'm going to call the match function on the address and the value. So if it matches with both of them, then we're good. Then I know we're all friends, and you sent good input, and I don't need to send you, like, a message telling you to send me better input. Cool. So at this point in the code, we did everything, like, you on your end, it's assumed you did everything right. I'm going to, like, take that address and write it to a text file. So I'm going to open that file. I'm going to start with address.txt first. And I'm going to open that with the write flag. And then just write. I'm going to write the address to that, right? And then I'm going to do the same thing with the value. Notice there's, like, a pattern going on here. Just write into text files. Do this all day. Cool. So now those are taken care of. Now if they are not valid hexadecimal numbers, then I'm just going to respond with the error message. And then you're just going to send another message. You just try again. And I think the last thing I wrote was, oh yeah, if the message list, so if you send me more than 1 space in the message, then I know that your input was also not super great. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Let me make sure those line up, because my text is super big. Yeah, it looks like they line up. Cool. I'll find out if they don't. So, all right. So next thing to do is I have to create a TWIML response object using the Twilio Python helper library, and this is the object that I'm going to use to respond to the request that Twilio is sending my Flask app once you send a text message to Twilio, and that response is just going to contain a message, which is going to be that response message string. And I'm going to return a string version of that response object, which will basically just be my app spitting out some XML. Next, we're at the fun part. I can run my app now, assuming, like, nothing's totally messed up. So, gonna run it. I'm gonna set debug equal to true because I'm live coding, and who knows what can happen. So debug equals true. Awesome. No syntax errors according to my vimrc yet. Okay, so now I'm going to run that. Cool, so far so good. I'm not going to give you all the phone number just yet because I want to test it out myself. So Mario's cool, right? But does anyone here like Zelda? Cool, got a lot. Did anyone play the new Zelda game? Rad. I didn't yet, so I don't have a Switch yet, but I heard it was pretty good though. I'm going to play some Zelda though. We're all going to play some Zelda together instead of Mario, because you already seen enough of that. So let me see. Open my recent ROMs. Legend of Zelda. Cool. My computer's playing the volume, and that's cool. So I have a little Agnew over here, and you see I have made 0 progress so far. I don't even have the sword yet. And if you're familiar with this game, you know you can go into this cave. And you can talk to this creepy old man who says, it's dangerous to go alone, take this, and then he gives you a sword. But I'm not trying to play this game the legit way. We're trying to hack it, and we're trying to cheat. So I have the sword on my phone here in a text message, and I'm going to text this phone number. The memory address is 0657, I think. And I'm going to text it 3, which will give me the magical sword. And did it work? Oh, wait, I'm not running the script. So... Cool, now I have it. Rad. So I just gave myself the sword. You see at the A slot. I have the sword, transferred it from my phone. Even shoot that sword around. So now I think do you all want to play this with me? Yeah, let's play some Zelda. So I have a phone number. If you pull all your phones out, and by the way, after this talk, I'm gonna send all of you like a blog post, like detailing this step by step, like how to get all this working. So if I went too fast or whatever, you'll be fine. So the way you can get that is by texting this phone number too and playing this game. So here it is. If you text 74310, I have some fun memory locations already up on the screen. If you want to like find even more stuff, you can. Oh no, I accidentally switched screens. If you can also like just Google like Zelda RAM map and you'll find something. So I see people are starting to send some stuff in already. Oh, someone just like crashed the game. So, but that's a good thing. Because like we're at oh man, the emulator just straight up died. Well, we're no, that's good. That's good. Well, we're at the point where it's like been established that my code works. So now at this point, it's like if the game is crashing because you're sending like you're hacking it, that means this demo is going well. So this is very much by design. Let me open this game again. Go to downloads. You're all gonna see my file system now. Legend of Zelda. Where's Legend of Zelda? There we go. Gonna set that config to be bigger aspect ratio. This is a super advanced emulator, as you can see. All right, cool. So now I have my Zelda back up. It's cool. I got like 3 more minutes of this talk, so we can spend some of that playing some Zelda. I'm gonna run this Lua script again. I want someone to give me the sword because I didn't save. No save states. Let's see, where is this? Talks, NES .lua. Okay, we're back in business. Back in business. All right, so someone's giving me some bombs. I see someone just gave me like infinite life. So that's oh, now I'm walking around at the top of the screen. That's pretty cool. Can someone try to crash the game again? That would be I think someone finally crashed again. The sword is red for some reason. So yeah, basically you see it's not that difficult to get started and just like hack some old Nintendo games. I'm not like an expert ROM hacker by any means, but this stuff is kind of fun. I figured we'll do something fun for the last day of talks at PyCon. So I'm going to text all of you a blog post that has like detailed instructions on how to get started on all this and how to install this emulator and stuff. If you're from out of the country and you can't text the phone number because it's like a US phone number, you have my Twitter handle. It's sagnewshreds, and my email address is sagnew@twilio.com. So like, I'll even just put it up here. sagnew@twilio.com. So if you're like from out of the country and you can't text that phone number, just email me or find me on Twitter or like come tackle me after this talk. Like in 2 minutes, I'll be over here. I'll be around for the rest of the day at PyCon. My name is Sam Agnew. I'm a developer evangelist at Twilio, and if you ever like build anything cool with this, like let me know. I'd love to see it. It finally crashed again. Nice.